Aren't you gonna invite me in?
Dude, I'll tell you what. Um, this movie has some incredible lines of dialogue, most notably from a one Miss Hailee Steinfeld. And I have been thinking about two lines of dialogue for 3 days now. I don't know how long ago I saw this movie. And I don't like typically Goo, right? Here's how it goes when we watch and review movies. This is what happens for most people. You walk out of the theater, you think it's this, right? 8, 9, 10. In our case, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40. And then after a couple days, it goes down a dog or two, or you start nitpicking it. I think just the two lines of dialogue from Hailee Steinfeld has propped this movie up. It might even be a dog higher than what I felt like leaving the theater. I can't get it out of my head. I keep thinking about this movie. And then like those lines of dialogue, and then I start thinking about more things about this movie. This movie is not perfect, but it's fucking sticking with me, Goo. It's sticking with me.
But are you gonna invite people into your home now?
If they're proposing to do what Hailee Steinfeld is, yes, she is more than welcome in vampire form or in human form. I I'm I'm uh I'm of a mind to make some moogie. Goo. I'll say that.
One goo, three, yeah. Goo. Jaws 3. Goo. King of Queens. Goo. Meryl Streep. Goo. Entertainment.
I'm Goo.
And I'm Mac.
And you might be saying to yourself, are these two the same person? No, we're different. We're Mac and Goo.
That's right. We are both wearing blue today, though. Good coordination on our end. We get a real hive mind like this movie, Goo, you know?
Yeah, like
Just a couple
Michael
of
A.
vamps.
and B. Jordan and all the vampires.
Yes. Today we're discussing box office sensation Sinners, the
Mhm.
latest and some may argue the greatest Ryan Coogler movie starring Michael B. Jordan. Goot, Sinners is a movie that when it was announced, maybe the middle of last year, everyone was like, "Oh, okay, Coogler, Michael B. Jordan, in definitely." And you're like, "Oh, it's like a horror thriller set in the
Southern
1930s."
horror mystique vampire. And some of us said, huh?
Yeah, this is weird, and
Yeah.
this movie is weird, but I think we can now officially say that Ryan Coogler, when given the keys to anything, he's gonna make that bitch run. Like this is an original idea, original script. It's not adapting anything straight from Ryan Coogler. I'm sure there were some influences, obviously. I don't know, man. Ryan Coogler gets it. He can make movies.
You know what it reminds me of? And I'm not comparing it to these movies, but what I would compare it to in its uniqueness and how it's doing on Rotten Tomatoes and with its reception is Get Out
Mm.
and oh crap, I just had it in my head. The John Krasinski movie.
Oh, well, you can't talk to anyone. What the hell is it called?
That's what it's called. You can't talk to
Stay
anyone.
silent. The monsters can hear you.
No, it's called
Part one.
Shh. But it's a lot like that where it does so much right. There's some stuff that you can nitpick, obviously, but they're so unique and different that they really stand out. Are you looking it up?
Yeah, I'm looking a quiet place. A
No,
quiet
it's called
place to talk.
shut up. Zip it. It's called Zip a Zip-Bois.
It's called The Monsters Are Gonna Get You. Um, I think that's pretty more so with Get Out, I feel like too. Um, in that it's a movie that sits with you for a little bit and you think about it, and like by the end of the year, you might like it more than you do now.
Mhm.
Um, at least that's where I'm starting to trend now that
And
I'm a couple
truly
days removed.
fringe horror. Like, really not very horror.
Like this could have been a great movie without the horror. And I think there's even, and we'll get into it a little bit, the horror isn't shoehorned in, but I feel like it either could have come in earlier or remove it altogether, and we still got like a great movie,
But the
or like,
horror adds a little commentary at the end.
yes, for sure. The horror element might be my least favorite part of the movie, if that makes sense. The more it complicates things a little bit, and I have some critiques there, but it is like as far as vampire movies go, there's not many better, right? Like vampire movies can be kind of too tongue in cheek or a B movie. Like this, like takes them seriously and like I don't know. It's I have a hard time like naming a better vampire movie. You know, I'm sure there's a couple, but
I've never seen another vampire movie. This is my first vampire movie. What I love about the way they treat the vampires in this movie, which
mm,
also I wouldn't have minded if in the trailers there was never a mention of vampires, and then 45 minutes in, you're like, what in the fuck is going on?
yeah,
But
there is a
also,
yeah.
I will say this, they respect the rules of vampires in this movie better than maybe anything in a very long time.
Well, right. So there's two basic rules with vampires, and they really just adhere to those two. They don't complicate it. They don't get too much into the
Well,
lore.
there's more than just two, but yes, go ahead.
Well, they really it's like sunlight kills them and you have to invite them in. That's like the two
But
main things.
also, wooden stakes, garlic, they have a
True.
bunch of other
True.
stuff in
Yeah,
it.
you're right. You're right
Yeah.
actually. Yeah, true. Yeah, I don't all right, let's get into it. Sinners made 48 million on its opening weekend, huge opening for a movie that's, you know, not a well-known not a known IP whatsoever, you know, brand new fucking idea from the mind of Ryan Coogler. It's up to 71 million domestic after a week and a half, 87 million worldwide. It's going to make a ton of money again this weekend. It's holding strong. It's had one of the best, strongest releases post Easter in a long, long time. It is a rated R action drama, horror, and thriller. And Goo, why this movie is so good is the drama element, the characters that they give you, and the relationships, the way these characters are connected is the best part of this movie. And the other things that get brought in heighten those things, but the drama element and the relationship between characters here is why this movie kicks ass.
I actually love the little bit of humor that is tossed in there because it feels so natural, and I do think that has a lot to do with the charisma of two Michael B. Jordans.
Yeah, were you distracted by two Michael B's at all? I was distracted for
A
like
little bit
15
because
minutes.
they weren't different enough. Like, they had, like, minor differences.
Yeah.
Usually, when you see two of the same actor, like, say if they're playing twins, one
Mm.
of them has a British accent. You know which one's which.
Yeah, I think they even had the same facial hair here, so there was like no real
That's a
swapping.
cool
Just
facial hair, though. Like,
yeah,
that's of the time. By the way, period piece, the look of this movie, it's fucking beautiful. It is a beautiful movie, and they go out of their way to, like, really show the landscape and how big the South is, the
mhm.
sky, which does play into stuff later.
I think it's one of those movies where the town, the setting, the times becomes a character in and of itself, right? We're
Yeah.
talking early 1930s in the deep South, where there's obviously like there's deep racism there. You know, the
Mhm.
Klan's involved a little bit. I think it's what is it, Clarksville, Mississippi, something like that.
It's in
It
and around Mississippi.
yeah, it plays a big part in this movie and becomes a character. And Cougar did an incredible job setting that scene, that time. Like there's a shot in this movie where Smoke and Stack are downtown at this Mississippi thing, and like, oh, I need a sign. And then the Chinese family, who is accepted in both worlds, the black community and the white community, the daughter walks across the street to the white side, and it's a tracking shot across the street, which I loved, into the
Yeah.
white. Like he just like the small little things like that. It's like a 8 minute tracking shot, but it sets like the whole scene and gets you to understand like the gravity of what's going on in the time and place.
Accepted as in, like, they're allowed to sell people stuff. Like, I would
Yeah,
assume that if you're looking in the communities of both, they're probably not accepted in either.
you're right. They're outliers in both, kind of
Yeah.
pariahs in both, I suppose, but they're according to the whites higher than the black people, and in the black people they're not white, so they're able to bounce
Yeah.
around in both worlds. Goo, this movie has a runtime of 137 minutes, 2 hours and 17 minutes. I almost needed like a good 5 or 10 minutes more on some Remick background, so a little more vampire background, a little bit an earlier introduction, so that his character had a little more gravity, was a little more sympathetic. Because by the end, you're actually really you really like this character, and you're like, well,
Yeah.
I wish I got a little more backstory here. And
Or
I
even some
wonder if
vampire foreshadowing in the first third of the
just a
movie.
little bit. We needed a little bit of it
Yeah.
because when he's introduced, it's kind of out of fucking nowhere. Like
Mhm.
it, it's it was mildly annoying because you go into this knowing it's a vampire movie and you don't see any vamps until, yeah, probably the beginning of the second act. And ultimately that's okay. But because the villain, Remick, played by Jack O'Connell, is so good, and there's so many parallels being drawn between what that experience is and what like the black experience is in the South in the 1930s, you kind of wish to get a little more background there, and you never get it. You just have some lines of dialogue from him.
But also, if he wasn't there, if this wasn't a vampire movie and it was just about two brothers running a nightclub and then having to deal with some aftermath after about maybe not making enough
They're
money or
they're two
dealing with the
brothers.
people that sold him the barn, like
Yeah.
that also would have been a very interesting movie.
I totally agree, and I wonder at what point did this become a vampire movie, or was it always a vampire movie? Like, did Coogler have this idea to tell this story about black people in the South in the 30s and draw parallels with like the whole vampire religion type of thing? And that's the other thing. There's a huge religious undertone to this,
Yes.
and questioning religion and how it basically is a tool to oppress people and has been for thousands of
Questioning the
years.
power of music as
Right.
well.
And that's a genius part of this script as well. Is it really makes you question, if you haven't already, some why religion is the way it is, how it came to be, and why it's used the way it is. Goo, on Rotten Tomatoes, this movie has 98% from the critics, 97% from the audience. On Metacritic, an 84. So by the end of the year, this is still going to be one of the best movies of the year by those metrics.
Mhm.
I'm sure we'll still be talking about this movie by the end of the year. And of course, this is written and directed by Ryan Coogler. We've mentioned him a couple times already. You would know Coogler from Fruitvale Station. That was his debut. That's where him and Michael B. Jordan first got together. I think it was 2013. Creed was the next effort, which was, I think, once Creed happened, because no one wanted a new Rocky movie, right? No one wanted to
Yeah.
dabble in that universe again. Creed happens, and you're like, oh, I guess we can make more Rocky movies if
Is
Michael B.
this
Jordan and
better
Ryan
than
Coogler are
Rocky?
involved. Yeah, right, right. And I would say yes.
Yeah.
And then of course he did Black Panther and Wakanda Forever. So far that's 1, 2, 3, 4. This is his fifth movie. I'd say he's 5 for 5.
Oh, Roddy
Uh,
T's had a chart up of all of his movies. I think he's 6 for 6. You might be missing one, but he's either
okay.
high 80s or 90s and everything.
Yeah. So clearly, once again, like, hand him the keys to whatever, key to the city. Let him do whatever the hell he wants.
X-Files, I believe, is his next thing, right?
Well, not yeah, they've been talking about it. What's officially announced, at least on IMDb, is he has Eyes of Wakanda coming up, I think, at the end of
Oh,
this
that's
year,
right, yeah.
which is in the MCU. And then something called Wrong Answer. And the synopsis for that is: a math teacher in Atlanta is scandalized when he looks to get funding for his school by altering his students' test scores. So that seems to harken back to the Fruitvale roots, because Fruitvale, I think, was based on a true story. That seems like it's based on a true story.
I
And the
thought it
thing,
was about every time I ask you a question.
Michael B. Jordan already signed on for Wrong Answer too, so I'm
Yeah.
sure we'll be looking for that in a couple
How
years.
many of them?
Oh, how many
How
Michael
many
B's?
Michael B. Jordans?
I think just B. A's not going to be in that one.
Oh, that's too bad.
Synopsis: Goo, for sinners trying to leave their troubled lives behind, twin brothers return to their hometown to start again, only to discover that an even greater evil is waiting to welcome them back. This stars Miles Catton as Sammy Moore / Preacher Boy.
1 second. So first off, he's amazing in this. Also,
His first movie ever, I think, too.
he does the singing in this, correct?
That is actually him
I
singing as
really
well.
enjoy his singing voice.
Hell of a voice.
But I'll also say, and it's not the fault of the movie, but whenever I hear Preacher Boy, I think of Paper Boy, and then I start
Oh,
singing that in my head.
all right, fair enough. Jack O'Connell as Remick. He is the main vampire, the main villain, I guess. Michael B. Jordan as both Smoke and Stack, the twin brothers that we've been talking about. Goo, your hand is raised again.
In the movie, now I could tell them apart because
Mhm.
one had a red suit, one did not.
Mm-hmm.
But also, did you know their names throughout the movie?
Once they attach them to their loved ones, then I had it figured out, and they
Okay.
do separate them, like, at the beginning of, or towards the end of that first act too, so you're kind of feeling it out. But at
It
first it
would
was
have been
confusing.
funny, though, if they called each other by the wrong name a lot. because that would have just confused everyone, but no one would have wanted to question it.
What is cooler, smoke or stack? The name.
Stack.
I think smoke. I think smoke's cooler.
Okay, so we just figured it out. I'm Stack,
Alright.
you're Smoke.
All
Because
right, that's
I'm
good to me.
thinking like Stack and
Oh,
Palin.
but so all right, we'll get back to that. What would you rather be? That we'll ask that question at the end
Wait,
of it.
who would I rather be?
Smoke or stack?
You'll have to tell me at the end which one's which.
Strong cough I have there. David Maldonado as Hogwood. He's the guy that sells the property to Smoke and
Wait,
Stack.
sorry. I also want that name though.
Hogwood. You want to be
I'm
Stack
Hog-
Hogwood?
I'm a Hogwood.
Stack Hogwood. There you go.
Yeah.
Helena Hu as Lisa Chow. She is the Chinese wife and mother. Just Yao. Apparently, this gentleman just goes by Yao as Bo Chow. He was great. He's the father, husband. Del Rey Lindo as Delta Slim was awesome. Every line of dialogue he said was fucking great.
Was he in too much of the movie to give him Plemonade?
Yeah, I'd say so. Yep.
But also,
he's
when you
fully
look at
in
the
2/3
billing-
of the movie.
Well, look at the billing though. Look how far down he is.
I know, but it is
All
a
right,
real
Max Credit Union.
it is a real group of characters here.
Yeah.
Jamie Lawson as Perline. She was great too. You would know her as Bella Real from the Batman universe. She plays a nice role in this. Hailee Steinfeld as Mary. You want to talk Plemonade? There's your fucking Plemonade right there.
She's in too much of the movie.
No, she's not. No, she's
And she's
not.
like second billing. If you look at the poster, she's on the poster. You can't give her
Fuck you.
Plemonade.
She's second billing, but she only has what, like 11 minutes of
I
screen
know
time?
you made Plemonade in your pants when you saw her, but
Come on, man. Come on.
yeah, that's what you did.
This is a PG program here. Omar Benson Miller as Cornbread. You might remember him from 8 Mile. I love when this dude pops up. Every
He's
time he's in
also
a movie.
on what
10
was the
freaking
Rock?
girls in the Chin Tiki. 10
Thank you.
freaking girls. 10 freaking girls.
What was that show with The Rock and Rob Corddry where they played agents? It wasn't Entourage, but it
No,
was football.
Yeah,
Baller.
Ballers on HBO. There you go.
Mhm.
Wunmi Masaku as Annie. This is Smoke's love interest. Mary is Stack's love interest. You would know her as, what is she, B-15 in the Marvel Universe in the MCU?
Oh, I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, that's her.
And then also she, deals with some, I wouldn't say voodoo. People accuse her of voodoo in the movie, but
she is like loosely aware of
she's the one that
level
lets everyone know what the rules are. She's the Jamie Kennedy of the movie.
Yeah. We also get Buddy Guy as old Sammy towards the end of the movie. Noted blues legend. That was great. And then a couple other characters here. Saul Williams as Jeddah Dyer. That's Preacher Boy's father, the preacher. Andreen Warren Hummon as Ruthie. Tanaj L. Jackson as Beatrice. Sam Malone as Terry. I put him in here because his one scene is when he's robbing the truck and he gets shot in the leg.
It's
How
hilarious.
the hell are you? Great fucking scene. And then the other two main vampires we meet at some point, the first two that get turned are Peter Dramanis as Bert and Lola Kirk as Joan. And they were perfect at like playing second fiddle as well. The casting of this movie was A+. They fucking absolutely nailed that.
Oh, the casting, so much of this movie, I think it got a cinema score of like an A. So much of this movie and the feel of this movie is A+.
Yeah. Yep. It feels like a movie that did everything right. And so the only real things you can nitpick are script decisions. And I think that's sort of where I'm at. Like, I have no gripes about anything in this movie other than like when things take place in the story and something they decided to do or not do. So like it's a really hard movie to criticize in that way. And I think that's why you're seeing such high scores, because they nail every aspect of what makes a movie good.
Well, I think that it does lack in the horror department, but I'm not necessarily looking for a truly spooky, scary movie here.
No, I agree. And I think if someone came into this wanting full vampire movies, you might be little disappointed.
Yeah, if you're going into this looking for the full vampire gore zombie monster movie, it ain't that.
Yeah, no, I agree. And another thing that I think was this movie's strong point is it essentially takes place over one day.
Yes.
You have like a final 15 minutes or so that is not taking place that day, but the core of the movie, the plot of this movie takes place over one day, and I love that. It's just like you're in and you're out, It helps with the pacing, even though it's a 2 hour and 17-minute movie. It didn't feel long. You almost needed a little bit more. Like I said, the music and the score is unreal. And music is such a central part of this movie and storytelling. And they use it in fantastical ways. There's a couple truly great musical scenes here. I have like some questions and maybe a couple cons here that
We
like,
can do that in spoilers though, because I think we
okay,
can
all
dive a
right,
little bit deeper. Let's
all right,
do the gauntlet real quick.
all right.
I actually added one if you don't mind, but
Okay, sure,
play
sure.
along with me. Let's go with fun factor. And I thought it was the first, even before we got to the vampires, I thought that of Preacher Boy with his cousins and going to set up their day, I thought that was wildly fun.
Yeah, and that's like if when you really nail a setting in a period piece, it becomes fun because it's like it's history, and you're like, oh, this is what it was like then, and you're like
Mhm.
gripped by everything on the screen, and I like that's why like I'm having like when I'm thinking about this movie in retrospect, a couple days removed, like man, they did that well, they did this well, they nailed that. I'm like, this movie might be going up on the dog scale. Like it's a very fun movie. Setting, characters, music, like it's a very fun movie.
Also, as the movie goes along, you find out a little bit more each minute about Smokestack and Preacher Boy and their family.
Right. And that's so maybe if this took place over a week instead of a day, you would have gotten more of that. I don't know if it's better, but
I
I
don't know
like
if
how
it,
I
I
like how you
also
get the tidbits, you know?
But I also don't need perfect bows tied on everything.
For
I
sure.
like some things left to not the imagination, but like you can interpret it different ways.
And there's something to be said about like leaving the theater wanting more of this
Mhm.
and that, you know?
So I'm glad that you brought that up. Satisfactor. I think this movie does an amazing job of giving you a very satisfying ending, but I'm not sure if I wanted that.
I I'm somewhere in around there with you. It walks a fine line at the end that I think I liked, but I don't know if I liked, and I'm sure as we have this conversation, I'll make my mind up on that. Um, there is a very satisfying Tarantino like conclusion to our main story, and then there's like a epilogue kind of
Yeah.
mid credit scene that continues the story and gives you a definitive answer to a certain question. And I don't know if it needed that.
I'm going to tip my hand. I didn't care for it.
Okay. All right. That's fair. That's fair.
And the Tarantino ending almost makes it feel like that was the ending of a movie that, say, if they didn't have the vampires, that would be the conclusion.
Yeah, it was interesting. And that part was satisfying, but it's not the actual end of the movie, which is why it's like, okay. And again, I wonder if when Coogler was writing the script, like when he decided to put vampires in this movie, you know? I don't know if it was something
Yeah.
that he had from the beginning or not. And the movie doesn't tell you that or not.
Borometer, not boring.
It's not a boring movie. It's not
Because
at
even
all.
the stuff that and I'm not even saying I don't like it. I just think I would have liked the end to be a different spot. But that stuff isn't boring.
Mhm.
It's interesting. I'm just not sure if I like it.
Yeah, and even though it takes a little bit to get into the vampire element of this movie, because they nailed like the time and place of 1930s South, like that stuff is not boring because
I
you're
had
like,
the
wow,
most fun in the
yeah,
setup.
yeah, agreed.
Halloween, will this movie wane over time? No, I think that this will be more appreciated over time.
Yeah, I agree, and I think I already appreciate it more than I did when I left the theater. I don't know if it's gonna be like in our top 4 by year's end. I have a feeling like it's probably just gonna miss out.
Mhm.
But it'll be in the conversation. It'll be at the very least like an honorable mention for best movie of the year
Waterworld, it's better than Waterworld.
for sure. For
Spooky
sure.
scary. Did you jump at all?
No, so it's not and going back to your point about horror movies, it's not really a great horror movie, right? But also like vampire stuff never really leads to great horror movies either. You know, like you're never truly scared by vampires, right? It's
No,
just
and
they
even
are
the
what they are.
vampires in this, I wasn't afraid of the vampires. I found like I didn't even find them eerie.
They were the only like eerie shot. Oh, there's a couple scenes actually. When Cornbread goes out to take a piss, when you hear the voices, that was cool and like spooky. And then when
There's one
Mary,
musical thing. There's a musical thing going on.
yeah, and then when
Maybe.
Mary goes out to confront them and she turns and you see Remick like float, that was pretty
I
cool too.
no, I didn't like that.
But
Actually
that's what
I was like,
vampires do.
you don't know
I
what
think.
vampires do.
I don't.
Max Credit Union, I want to give credit to the people that decided that we're going to play by the normal rules of vampires. We're not going to create our own rules. They're not going to sparkle in the sun. If it's the sun, they're going to burn. If they're not invited in a house, they're not going to go in. They don't like garlic. If you have silver, they're not going to attack you. Credit.
I give credit to Ryan Coogler for having this
I mean, he
idea,
probably made the rules, so I'll give
putting
him
this
credit.
together. Yeah, this is a clear credit to Ryan Coogler for making this movie.
When life gives you lemons, you make lemonade. You said I can't give it to the old blues singer, so
I don't think you can give it to Del Rey. No, I think he's in it too much. That's just my opinion.
I enjoyed him.
All right, I am giving it goo to Hailee Steinfeld as Mary.
She's in it as much as him.
She's in the third act more, but she's not really in the movie that much until then. She's in like 2 scenes before the third act, and both are tour de forces. And then in the third act, goo, once she comes back into the little, what do they call it, the juke there,
Mhm.
she delivers 2 lines of dialogue that I'm gonna be thinking about for years. For years. She kicked this movie up to another level. Without her, this movie's still really good, but it's missing something. Her performance was fucking great.
Excite Bike Mania, Pants Tan City. What got you going, Mac? And we know the answer.
Hailee Steinfeld, I'll tell you that when she says "want some," I was like, "Oh,
Get out of here, dude.
and she has a line about robbing trains, and we'll get into that in a second. I was like, that is a fucking incredible. The fact that Coogler wrote that. This movie, by the way, this is a perfect time to talk about it. Excite Bike Mania, Pants Tent City. This movie is horny as fuck. This movie
Yeah.
is sexy. Ryan Coogler, you went out of your way to put in a couple scenes in this movie that were full of Pants Tent City, and credit to you, my man.
And also, it's sexy, no nudity.
No nudity. Yeah, you're right. And it's still
No.
uber sexy
Mm-hmm. It's horny as
and
fuck.
sweaty.
Well, yeah, you're gonna sweat till you stink.
I want to taste
For those
you.
of you tardy to the Mac and Goo party, we rate everything on a 40 hot dog rating system. Mac, I love the look of this movie. I love the period piece. I love following around the twins. Preacher Boy. I like every character in this movie. They went and made it where you root for every character in this movie, even the ones that when they first jump in there, you're like, I hate this guy. Oh, wait, no, I don't. I actually like this guy.
The vampires, at one point, there's a fucking musical song and dance, like in the rain almost. That you're like, I think I'm rooting for these guys now. Like it makes you question everything.
There's also a scene in the juke where Preacher Boy is playing where I'm not sure if I love every choice of like the musicians that pop up
Yeah,
in there.
all the transitions around the room.
It's a cool idea, but I think the better shot is the shot from the vampires after.
I agree.
That
I agree.
Looked awesome.
That was really cool. Where the walls had been burnt down, and they pulled back to the point of view of the 3 vampires.
You mentioned that tracking shot that I also really enjoyed. Michael B. Jordan, his charisma to be able to pull off both of these characters, and you're rooting for both of them. I really fucking love this movie. My issue is that I think there was a clear point that they could have cut it and had almost like this Inception-like ending of where Preacher Boy is, and you don't know what's going to happen next. Maybe let's talk about it after. I don't want to get too far into the end.
Yeah.
But the ending does make me say like, oh, I think there was not even a tidier, because like the end that they give you is really satisfactory. It's just that I don't know if I wanted that satisfactory ending. 36 or 37 hot dogs.
Ah, cool. Goo, fucking motherfucker. So when I left the theater, I was thinking 36 hot dogs. Like,
Mhm.
good, borderline great movie, a movie that I've been thinking about and telling people to watch. That's what we're talking about here. Like, I want people to see this movie because I think it's a really interesting and deep conversation you can have about this movie. I do have some caveats in there though. Caveats. Um, I was a little distracted at first with the two Michael B's. Took a little time to get used to. I got over it I liked when they separated them, so I didn't have to look at two on the screen at the same time and like look to see if like where they cut it and where a body double is. Um, my main gripe here though, Goo, is we don't get into we don't even sniff or get introduced or think about vampires until like 45 minutes into this movie. And you just have Remick being chased by Native Americans into a house. And you're like, I knew we were getting vampires, but I'm like, this is how we're doing it. It's like a random outbreak, and like, why are the Native Americans even introduced into this movie ultimately? And I suppose it's all over one day, so you can sort of excuse where they go and like why they don't do a certain thing or pop up here or there. Um, I just feel like we needed a little bit more of a background of a buildup for Remick, who's our main villain here, or like an earlier infusion of vampires into the story, or some drops while we were in that town, right? Someone in the shadows or something like that. And I also think making Remick slightly more sympathetic would have bumped up the climax of this movie, which I loved. It was a great scene, but you're not really rooting for Remick until that moment because of what he's saying. And I wish we had a little more sympathy on his end. It would have made him a better villain. So I loved everything else about this movie. That's my main gripe about the story. And I think it's a legit gripe where like the vampire stuff feels uneven and like you just maybe needed it spotted earlier, or a couple more things maybe explained. Um, I have this at 37 hot dogs. It's gone up definitively for me. The more I'm thinking about it and the more I'm thinking about how layered this movie is and the themes that they're playing with and the dialogue, it's just they crush it. And I wouldn't be surprised if this goes up to 38 by the end of the year. Like, that's the type of movie we're talking about. It's a movie you'll be thinking about all year. It's a movie you're going to want your friends to see so that you can talk to them about it. It's a great movie.
Also, before we get to the spoilers, I love the conclusion for like the conclusion to each story for both Michael B. Jordans.
It was fitting, really fitting for both characters. But to your point, they do sort of tie things up in a nice, neat little bow.
Yes.
And did we need that? I don't know. I think I did like it, but did it make the movie better?
So,
I don't know.
Spoiler.
Spoiler, spoiler, spoiler,
Spoiler,
spoiler.
spoiler, spoiler. Spoiler.
Mhm.
We have one Michael B. Jordan that is able to die and go on to the afterlife with
Smoke.
Smoke. Okay. With his child who passed and with what's her name?
Annie was her name.
Annie. And then we have the other Michael B. Jordan,
Stack.
who was able to live his life and move on to a time when his love with Hailee Steinfeld's character would be more accepted.
Yeah, so the mid credit or epilogue, whatever you want to call it, is a 60-year time jump, and we see Preacher Boy has opened up his own blues club in Chicago. So
Mhm.
homage to Smoke and Stack, and he calls it Perlene's, which is like one night only, and that man got gripped in, and we'll never forget that woman ever.
Mhm.
And he's playing the blues up there, and then at the end of the night, Stack and Mary have to be invited into the joint. They have this conversation that cuts back to the moment where you thought Smoke had killed Stack. Turns out that didn't happen. Obviously, we're seeing him here. And he says, and this was a little corny, he's like, I'm going to let you live as long as you don't like touch Preacher Boy. Don't ever affect Preacher Boy. Let that man live his life. And it's just like him and Mary being cool as fuck in 1992, wearing 90s shit. Like, they're like, we bought all your albums. We kind of watched you from afar. Like, it was cool to see that, like, it was cool to see that Stack and Mary had like lived on and like they're still doing their thing.
Right, no,
I
but
don't know if I needed them to come back together with Preacher Boy.
so I'm not critiquing this amazing movie, but I think it would have been enough if they said, are we allowed to invite these people in? He says yes, but kind of cautiously. And then you just see them either walk to the door or walk in the door, and that's it. So you know that they're still around. You know that they've lived together and had their life together. And maybe Preacher Boy has also been dealing with them for the 60 years since, but we don't know this. Like we have to fill in the gaps.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you're saying. And this is why I'm having trouble deciding whether I liked this mid-credit epilogue type of thing, because there was a couple what I did love is seeing the fact that Stack and Mary, who were like soulmates, got to
Yeah.
live their lives out and will
Which would have been
forever.
all you had to do was just see them though. You didn't need the conversation.
And you almost didn't even need to see them if it was just like, hey, we have two people at the door that
And
want to
then
know if
that's
they can
it.
come in. Yeah.
And then that's
I
it.
think
Boom.
I think
Yeah.
that would have been cool. But then when they were leaving, I fucking loved the acknowledgement. Preacher Boy says to Stack, he was like, hey, when you said like this was the best day of my life, or that night was the best night of my life, were you like being truthful? And they're like, yeah, that was like the last time we were truly free for that one night. And like
Mhm.
I thought that line of dialogue hit, and that was cool. And that was cool to have like that conversation happened. But I didn't love the like they sat down, chummed it up for a sec. Like that I didn't love. I did love that Stack and Mary, like that love lasts forever. And I loved that the acknowledgement of like the music and the blues were when they were truly free. That was like they died that night, but it was the best night of their life. I
And
liked
then
that.
also with Smoke's death, while yeah, it's always cool to get that Tarantino shootout at the end, I had almost like so when Preacher Boy goes back to the church, I kind of said to myself, "Oh, I bet Smoke is going to deal with the Ku Klux Klan now like off on his own." And like I said it in my head and just said, "Okay, we'll just move on from this." But then they showed it.
Yeah, so shout out The Strangers, one of my all-time favorite horror movies. They open and close the movie the same way they do here. The opening of
Mhm.
that movie is the children walking down the street and the strangers are pulled over and they get the religious pamphlets and then they walk up to the house, see it, and it cuts back. Same sort of thing here. It opens with Sammy, Preacher Boy, pulling up to the church, and we cut back
Mhm.
to that. So I do like that. So getting to Smoke's death, I absolutely loved the climax of this movie, Goo, with Remick having Sammy like in the shallows, getting ready to end him.
Yeah.
The dialogue there between the two characters is fucking incredible. And then when Sammy starts reciting the Our Father and Remick is also saying it, and
Yeah.
he's like, these words aren't going to save you. They don't belong to you. They were forced on you the same way they were forced on me when my people got, taken over. Like that is just such brilliant writing and moment. Like these words might comfort you, but they're not going to save you. Like these words are just another form of repression. You're being repressed right now for racial reasons, but like religion is the same shit. Like that's what Remick is hammering home. And now, the oppressed becomes the oppressor. So not that Remick's right, but like what he's saying is right. And I really loved that like the dynamic there, the lines, the things they're connecting there was fucking great. And then Smoke saves Sammy in a fantastic way, and like then the sun comes out and they all get burnt up, and you think they're all dead until you see Stack and Mary in the post credit, and then you get like that final 10 minutes where Smoke is preparing for the Klan members to come that next morning, and it's great. He fucking demolishes him in a fantastic Tarantino style like shootout. And then I did it was a beautiful scene where he's sitting there because he's mortally wounded too, and he looks to the right and he sees Annie who died the night before, and their dead son or daughter, I forget, who they don't
But
explain how
also
the baby died.
he also had to kill her. He had to
Yeah,
free her spirit when she
yeah,
became a vampire.
right. And then like they see like that was a really cool scene.
It
And
was. I just
Annie
wasn't
had
sure if I needed that scene though.
Annie has a great line of dialogue though. She calls him by his real name, which I forget, and she says, put that out. I don't want any smoke on her. Saying I don't want, first of all, the smoke, but like I don't want the character of Smoke in the
Yeah.
afterlife. I want the real you. That was a great line of dialogue too. It was a really cool death.
I mean,
Great way to go out.
my wife said the same thing to me, but she said goo. But I was holding slime at the time
Yeah.
as
So,
well.
so getting back to your overarching point about things being kind of tied up in a nice, neat little knot. I think there's some people that are going to be really satisfied by that. how like the characters we thought were super cool and rooted
The
for had good
satisfactor is
endings.
through the roof. I just
But
don't know
I
if
also
they
think
need to
there
get
are
that far.
people more cinephiles that are gonna be like, for the story, it would have been better if they cut it off here or there.
Because I think it would have been its best ending with Preacher Boy's father saying, "Put that guitar down," and then it just cuts to him on the road holding the guitar, and that's it. And it just
Yeah,
ends right
and I
there.
liked and I loved because and it goes back to his conversation with Stack in the future.
Mhm.
He chooses music and the blues over the religion because the music and the blues is when he's truly free. It's truly when he's himself, and he is bringing up those souls
But you could
and
have just
everything from the
you didn't
past.
need that conversation. You could have
No,
just shot
yeah,
that in
I
the
get that.
movie.
I get that. And that's where I feel like, maybe you're closer to 40 hot dogs if there's a
Yeah.
little more of that inception-y stuff that you're talking about there. But like the music is fucking fantastic,
Yeah.
dude. Like the soundtrack and like what is it, Ludwig Göransson who did the score and the music for this movie? Fucking phenomenal, dude. Like one of the most memorable soundtracks and scores in a while. And like the music is a character in this movie, the setting, the time, the place, the character. Like this movie just does everything well. It does
I
everything
also
well.
I also loved when Smoke revealed that the guitar was their father's
Yeah, that was great. That
and
was
that
great.
Stack had lied about where they got it from.
Yeah. Yeah, that was and there was like and that's the other thing too, like we don't get much about their background. Like they allude to fighting in World War One. They left, go to Chicago, come back. We don't get like any background there. We don't get I think what we needed was some vampire background. So that's where I have like some questions
And
that
we
like,
also we don't truly know what they did to get their money. It's just
yeah,
sinister
right.
stuff.
Right. Yeah. Robbed the Irish and the Italians in Chicago. Like, and that's where at 2 hours and 17 minutes, I know this is technically a long movie, but it feels like we needed like another 10 minutes of that stuff and maybe
I would have
5 minutes
preferred
less
that
on the
stuff
back end.
over the satisfactory ending.
Yeah, I get that. I get that. And I don't know if I'm quite as far there saying I don't know if I did like a lot of what we got at the end, but I agree like with your sentiment there. But like that's what we're talking about. Like we're nitpicking because it's a great
Yeah.
movie. No,
Oh,
we're just
awesome.
nitpicking a couple
Highly
stuff about the
recommend.
story.
We should have said this at the beginning. We recommend this movie.
So like I feel like I have it at 37 hot dogs, and I'm like as I'm talking, maybe it is 38. Like it's not a 40 hot dog movie. Don't get me wrong. It's not gonna get to that pantheon, but it is one of the best movies of the year, and it is gonna be a movie you think about all year.
Are there any of your questions, cons, and pros that we did not get to?
Yeah, so we talked about the vampire stuff. I wanted an early intro. Remick being more sympathetic would have been better. Oh, yeah. Also, here's a big question for you. We didn't talk about this. What did you think about Grace and them setting up her daughter and that being the reason for them to yell for the vampires to come
They
in?
needed a reason.
They did need a reason. I don't know. That's why I'm like, I don't know if I loved it, but I don't know how you do it better than what they chose to do it.
Yeah.
They like intentionally set it up so that she had the daughter to motivate her in that scene. I get it. I don't know if I
Mhm.
loved it. But where the fuck did the Native Americans go? They're
I was
chasing
asking
the
that the
vamps,
entire time, and I thought at some point they were going to show up to help the final 2 or 3 living people.
or like that morning when the clan arrived, like they roll up on Michael B as
Yeah,
he's already
yeah.
like taking them out. Like it was weird. Like, and it goes back to like they're in the vampire introduction scene, and that scene feels really out of place because they're there and the vampire's there 45 minutes in. We never see them again, and like that's how we get the vampire intro. That like I didn't love that. I really didn't love how the vampire stuff came into it, and I didn't love how the Native Americans just never came back.
Mhm.
So I don't know. That's again, it's nitpicky, but it matters.
Of course. And then are there any of your pros that
Once again, I
we
really
touched on all
liked
of
the
it?
dynamic of the Chinese family being able to float back and forth. That was nice, and that was part of the setting in the
Yeah.
30s. No, I think we pretty much touched on everything there. Oh, and
Wow,
then
what
there's also
perfect.
an actual post credit of the gentleman who played Sammy, Miles Catan, I don't know how you say his name,
Oh.
playing music for like a minute at the end, him singing and
Oh,
playing
I
the
wish I
blues.
stayed for that. I
Yeah,
I
it was
thought the
good.
singing and the music in this was
And
fantastic.
that man has an incredible voice. Incredible voice.
Can you recommend this to non-horror people?
Yeah, because it's not that scary. It's
Yeah.
an element of it. It's more of a thriller than it is like a horror. Like and there is some blood and a little bit of gore, but it's not over the top. And I don't think it's something that people wouldn't be able to stomach if you're not into that. I think this is a movie you can recommend to everyone.
And they're also not using the vampires as monsters as much as they were using them to just get the point across.
Yeah, it's more of an allegory, and
Yeah.
it's more of a storytelling element than it is to scare people.
Let's get into Maxac.
And Maxac could be anything. It could be a boat. And Mac, in the movie that we just saw, Michael B. Jordan played not one, but two characters. I am going to run through the Mount Rushmore of, I believe, the greatest actor playing two characters in a movie, maybe more than two characters in a movie. Tell me if you believe Michael B. Jordan did a better job than the actors that I read off.
Okay, fair enough. Let's do it.
Michael B. Jordan versus Jack Nicholson in Mars Attacks.
I'll take Michael B here.
He plays the president. He plays that other guy.
Yeah.
You don't like it?
It might be one of Jack Nicholson's finest roles, actually.
That's your Weezer take. That's your The Shining? No. One Flew Over a Cuckoo's Nest? No. Mars Attacks.
Mars Attacks.
Michael B. Jordan versus Mike Myers in the Austin Powers trilogy.
As much as I enjoy that, and as much as I enjoy Eddie Murphy, as I'm sure you're going to bring up in a second,
Don't
give
you
me
dare.
Michael B. Give me Michael B.
Austin Powers, Dr. Evil, Fat Bastard, Gold Member.
Give me Michael B.
I'm taking Austin Powers.
Fair enough.
Michael B. Jordan versus Eddie Murphy in all of his movies.
I'll take Michael B.
Come on, man.
I'll take Michael B.
Coming to America, he plays like 5 characters. The Clumps, he's all of the Clumps.
Nutty Professor.
In Norbit, he's both Norbit and Rasputin. Raspucha? Raspucha.
Not Rasputin. Rasputin.
Rasputin. All right, how about this one then? Michael B. Jordan versus Lindsay Lohan in The Parent Trap.
Now we're talking. Here. This is the real tough one. You got Lindsay Lohan playing American Lindsay Lohan, and you have Lindsay Lohan playing British Lindsay Lohan.
That was the joke that I made earlier, by the way.
Yeah. I think you might go Lindsay Lohan here. She really showed her acting chops with her British accent.
Is double Lindsay Lohan the greatest twin role of all time?
It just might be.
It just might be because also she was such an unknown that you thought there actually were 2 of her.
I thought there was 2 twins, much like the Olsen twins for
Olsen twins, yep.
What,
Who
5
just
years?
Had their movie, It Takes Two, pretty much the exact same movie.
Yeah. I thought there was 2 Lindsay Lohans for 5 years until like early 2000s when you figure out, oh, it's just her.
As a part of my childhood, we'd always go to Maine every year. We still do this as a family. And we would stay in a cottage that wouldn't have any cable, but there'd be a VCR. So you'd spend a lot of time watching tapes. I remember one year, we just rotated. It was It Takes Two and Grease.
Is that why you hate Grease?
And then we also had a VHS of things that we recorded off the television. So we watched a lot of, there was an episode of Third Rock from the Sun where they snuck into the Super Bowl. So on a loop, It Takes Two, Grease, and the Third Rock from the Sun where they snuck into the Super Bowl. And Tommy was a baby.
Okay. All right. Wow.
If I had one more, I could make a Mount Rushmore. You know what's crazy is on Facebook, and these keep on popping up to me, so there's the AI Mount Rushmores that people are making. And some people, too many people, are putting 5 faces on a rock.
Oh my God. So they're not even that's very funny.
But it makes me laugh every single time. I'm like, there's one rule to a Mount Rushmore. 4 faces. Unless you're counting Bulk and Skull as 1. Which I am.
Yeah, I'll do that. I'll like if you're gonna put 2 Lindsay Lohans on there, they count as 1.
Yes. All right, Mac. Where can the folks find us?
You can find us on Twitter and on Instagram at Mac and Goo Podcast. Every other platform, we're Mac & Goo. That's Mac Shift 7 Goo. That includes Facebook, Stitcher, TuneIn, Castbox, Spreaker, Google Play, iHeartRadio, We're on Spotify, but more importantly, we are on Apple Podcasts. Get on there, rate, review, subscribe, 5 stars. If you do that, we'll get you a free Mac and Goo t-shirt from the folks over at Watertown Sportswear. That's Watertown Sportswear on 34 Mount Auburn Street in Watertown. WatertownSportswear.com. Expert screen printing and embroidery.
tpublic.com
Merch.
merch. Check us out next week. We'll do News Dump, and then
Revenge of the Sith.
Oh, that's right. So I'm sorry, Revenge of the Sith on Monday, and then maybe a News Dump at the end of the week. But is Thunderbolts out next week?
2 weeks, I thought, but maybe you're right. I
I
thought
don't
in
know.
May, isn't it?
Look, when
May next
Thunderbolts
week.
is out, we'll talk about Thunderbolts.
Give me your glass half full, sort of expectation for Thunderbolts.
Like as a positive or a negative?
Glass half full is a positive.
Team dynamic.
Okay. I was expecting more like, never mind.
I thought we were playing the word pyramid.
It was a bad question. It was a worse answer.
It's like that Ryan Coogler movie that's coming out.
I meant, it's a good callback right there. I meant like, if this movie's going to be good, how is it going to affect like the MCU?
I was going to say, if it's going to be good, it's going to be on the back of this team. The team dynamic will be what makes it good, is what I'm saying.
Okay, fair enough. That's a fair answer. I think if this movie is going to be good, it's because Century is really cool and Century is going to matter going forward.
I think if it's bad, it's because Century is boring.
That might be right too. Yeah.
All right. So Tuesdays are Goose Days. I abuse kangaroos. Tim Burton.
Bye.
Please flip the cassette over to side B to continue the adventure.
Now it's time for girls jumping on trampolines. Trambopolines.